I've been in the vending business since 1992, but that's not where I started. I started in 1979. I graduated from Oral Roberts University with a business degree with a marketing minor. I bought a little company that had $30,000 a year in sales, a little coffee company called Imperial. So I thought, I have a marketing degree, I have a business degree, I can grow a business, and I started out, and for 7 years I worked Imperial by myself until 1986, and that's 7 of the longest years of my life. I don't want to do that again. And so in 1986 I hired my first employees, and in 1992 I decided that there wasn't enough revenue in coffee alone to get me where I wanted to be, and so I started looking around. I almost went into retail coffee, and then I kept noticing these vending machines right beside my coffee machines, and the first thing we did was just pop machines. We didn't do snack or sandwich or coffee, and the next thing was snack, and then the next thing was coffee, and before you know it, I was a full-line vend operator. So when I bought that company, it was $30,000 a year in sales. Now a day we do $325,000 a day. We're in 3 states, and we employ about 650 people, and I'm glad we have great employees because I don't have to do everything anymore. One of the things that I really try to find in my leadership, the top leadership of my company, is hiring a man or a woman of faith. I have found that their leadership qualities are just superior. I've found that they think like I think, they treat people like I think, and so from a leadership standpoint, I try to find people of faith. Faith in my business, I try to employ things like the golden rule principle, for instance. You know, that's like a godly principle to me. Treat others as you want to be treated. That's no different than love your neighbor as yourself, if you think about it. And so I look at those kind of principles as being key, having a servant's attitude, treating people like you want to be treated. I think that is faith in your business. You have to make a lot of decisions when you're an entrepreneur, and you don't always make the right ones. But one of the things that I always did, or typically would always do, especially on big decisions, was pray before I made a decision. I've taken a lot of credit for decisions I've made, and I think sometimes I took way too much credit, because when you ask God to help you, when you ask God to give you wisdom, and the Bible says He'll give it to you freely. So I would tell you, making decisions in your business, bow your head, ask God for His wisdom, and you'll get some good answers. The biggest struggle came for me in my business, not when I was small, which that was difficult. I mean, you're the only employee for 7 years, you're doing everything, but it actually came in 08 and 09. The economy was a mess. We were heading into a depression or a recession, whatever you want to call it. We had grown every year prior to that. We had never had a down year, and we didn't really know how to react, or we didn't know that we needed to react that quick. And so here all of our numbers starting to shrink. People are laying people off, and we had banking relationships with a good bank here in Oklahoma, and we began to break banking ratios. And I got a call one day from our bank, and they said, "Paul, we need a meeting with you." And so I didn't know what it was about, and I meet with them, and they informed me that I had broken 2 banking ratios out of 3. We'd not missed any payments, and we were current with all our bills, but that didn't matter. They told me they weren't going to lend me any more money if I needed it, and they also told me I needed to pay $1 million back in the next 30 days to 60 days, and just stunned me. And you talk about some sleepless nights. Here we've got a big company too, and we care for our people, so we didn't want to lay people off. So during that time, I told the president of our company and myself, I cut my pay to 0 for a number of months, and we cut a lot of people's pay, and we laid off some people, and we began to react that way. And I remember the first 2 weeks waking up at 3 in the morning, and you'd be sitting in your office, and you'd be saying, you know, God, what's going to happen here? You know, and give me strength, and give me peace, and give me comfort, and give me wisdom. And you pray those prayers for 2 weeks, and you see how those tough decisions get made, and you see the answers coming, and Man, when we got out of that, I swore, that I was going to cut my debt. I was going to be so careful. I was going to respond quicker. And now our company is stronger than ever. Our financials, our ratios have never been better. But I'll tell you what, sometimes that deep water you walk through, it can be character building. It'll challenge your faith, but you come out strong, and you come out really realizing that as you depend on yourself and as you ask God to help you, you can make it through those difficult times. So sharing your faith in the workplace is an interesting thing. My HR director has warned me several times about what I should and shouldn't say, and that hasn't stopped me, quite frankly, from saying what I think. That's what an entrepreneur does. But if you consider your life a circle and you put a chair in the middle of that circle and you figure out, where does Christ belong in the circle of your life? Does he belong on the chair in the center of your life, in control of your life? Is he outside your circle? Do you not have a relationship with Christ? Is he inside the circle of your life? And when you find that out, I think you have to decide what to do. And if he's going to be the center of your life, which I think we all want that to be, you've got to be willing to share your faith. And so back about, I'd say 10 years ago, I called all my leadership together and I told them my spiritual story. I just said, hey, I want to tell you guys about what makes me tick, how God has changed my life, how God has become more important to me. Because in my early 20s and 30s, I was all about making money. I came from a very poor family, didn't have a lot, and I decided poor wasn't good for me, and I wanted to make some money. And so as I began to make money and things became good financially for me, I really realized how money didn't mean that much. And I'll tell you something about sharing your faith with people. If you don't talk about religion, talk about what Jesus has done for you. That makes a difference. People don't have a trouble with that. People have trouble with rules and regulations and are you this or are you that, which I don't think is important at all. If you share your story and what Jesus has done for your life, sharing your faith in the workplace is pretty simple. Love people as Christ loved people. Care for people as Christ cared for people. Serve more and lead less. If you do those things, if you love, if you care, if you serve, it will be so natural for people to start talking with you about their problems, start sharing with you the issues of their life. Mike was a guy who was a salesman for me for 16 years. He smoked, which I encouraged him not to, and eventually he got lung cancer. And it was a quick diagnosis. He got in his lungs, it was in his liver, and within a week he's in the ICU. And I talked with Mike about Christ before, and it just didn't make sense to him. You know, when you have an employee who gets close to dying, you have a choice you have to make, and my choice was, and the president of our company, both our choices were, we're going to go see Mike. And we're going to give him one last chance to find Christ real in his life. So we're up there in the ICU, and Mike's got a mask on, and he can barely speak, but we come in the room, we start kidding about golfing. He was a big golfer, and we sat down with him, and I got beside Mike's bed, and I said, Mike, you know why I'm here? And he looked at me, and he shook his head, yeah. And I said, Mike, I came to pray with you. At first, he was kind of like, I don't know if I really want to do that, Paul, and so I let that rest a little bit, and then about a couple minutes go by, and I said, Mike, do you want me to pray with you? And he said, yeah. We bow our heads and we pray. We ask God to change his life. We ask him to, I said to Mike, Mike, if there's anything you want to say you're sorry for with God, here's your chance. And I just let the moment of silence from Mike. So when I think of sharing my faith with employees, it means living out servant leadership. It means loving your neighbor as yourself. It means, caring. And it means being willing to try to give them an opportunity to receive Christ. Take some time away from your business and go serve. And do a short-term missions trip. I'm encouraging people to do this. I'm inviting some of my friends to go with me. I'm not going to tell you where you need to serve. There's so many places you can serve. The two countries that I tend to serve are Thailand and Brazil. In Thailand, we're rescuing kids from sex trafficking and slave trafficking. In Brazil, we're just putting on 2-day crusades where we try to introduce Christ to as many people. But the key is The key is go serve somewhere. You know, it's easy when you have a successful business like many of you have, it's easy to write that check and say somebody else go. But I'm a firm believer that if you'll take your time, which is really your most valuable thing, and you'll give it to God through serving in some mission area, that you'll get a lot out of it.